All right, so Shakara, what I was going to say to you is, yeah, you said to me to show you the connection between pan, as far as you know, the way you're using the word pan in Pan-Afrikanism or Pan-Arabism or whatever pans are out there, and the connection between that and obviously the demigod Pan, Peter Pan, XYZ. Now, I would suggest to you,
Sorry,
Shakara,
can
that.
I clarify, please? I didn't just ask you to show me a connection. I asked you to show
Oh,
me.
go on. Let me ask the question again,
Yeah,
so we
no,
can
no,
make
it's
sure
fine.
that
I'm just adding two words here. I'm just adding two words. I said linguistically and etymologically. That's it. Go ahead.
Linguistically and etymologically. Okay, cool. Even better. Thank you. So now we've got a clear definition of your what you've asked for. I'm gonna provide. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna say this to you, Shakara. If I was to look at, for instance, I'm going to start off with the demigod Pan, yeah, which is like a god of the forest. If I go on Google, I can find Pan, the demigod, and you'll find it to be a creature with horns, hoofed feet that lives in the forest. They would say there's an association between the Pan pipes and Pan and, you know, like the Pied Piper kind of thing with children and, you know, pipes and stuff like that. Now, if we get into this now with Peter Pan also plays a pipe, and, you know, there's an association with children and the rest of it. Now, when we get into the word pan, you said the word pan means all. Am I correct? Just to verify that before I move on.
Yes.
Now, what language does the word pan mean all in?
It means pan. Pan means all in the English language, and it's derived from a Greek terminology, I believe.
Okay, so it's derived from a Greek terminology, which would be the etymology of the word, would it not?
Yes.
All right, so if we're going into the etymology and then we find that this is a Greek terminology, and I can find that this pan demigod is a Greek demigod and it also has a Roman equivalent, then there's a definite association there. So although you said to me, I cannot make an etymological connection, we've just made one. So as far as this pan business is concerned, you know, why would you be using a Greek word which could directly be referencing a Greek demigod to represent an African movement?
Simply because we're speaking English. All words have etymologies, and there's semantic shift in etymology. So what the derivation of the word doesn't always mean something. Sorry, the same thing as what the word derived from. But I'm still challenging the idea that that the word pan in English, as it is used in the English language, is derived from the deity Pan of the ancient deity Pan.
No, but Shakara, unfortunately for you, yeah, you said, no, Shakara, unfortunately, where you've gone wrong here is you asked for etymology. And when we go into English, hold on one second, English doesn't hold the etymology for this word. English, if we use the word pan in English, it could mean frying pan, it could mean dustpan, it could mean drum pan or steel pan, it could mean loads of different things. I'm not tin pan, I've got you. I'm not saying to you that there's only one use for that word within the English language. One second, within the English language. But now that we've gone to the etymology, you're going to have no choice but to accept that this is a Greek word. And when Greeks refer to pan, yeah, they're referring to a demigod that walks around in the forest half naked, hoofs on its feet, horns on its head, and is abducting people's children. So I'm going to go back on mute. I've done my job.
Thank you very much, Brother Schiffer, for that information right there. Right, so are we going to go into this thing now? Oh, James says he's going to be back in 10, so if anybody's got any other... I'll save my in...
Yeah. I wanted to jump in on. I think I mentioned I was speaking earlier, and I don't know. Maybe the panel didn't really challenge me, but I felt like when it comes to the topic of Pan-Afrikanism and the whole ethno-nationalism, like obviously I hear the argument of obviously historically you don't have the KKK and NF who have killed people, but ideologically they're not like that different. Like I don't know why it's an issue today when I've even mentioned it on the panel to Naniva before, that when it comes to Elron and you guys on what you want Africa for Africa and what's it called? Europe for Europe, that you guys don't really disagree. And she said, yeah, like that's not an issue.
You know what? I wanna try and understand.
What's that?
Oh, go on.
So there was a time when me and Elron and you were on the panel. So yeah, there was a time when me and Elron and you were on the panel, right? And we were talking about I think it was Elron was talking about what he wants. I think he wants what's it called? Europe for Europe, and what's it called? You know, obviously you were saying Africa for Africa, innit? So I was saying like you guys don't really disagree, and you said basically yeah, innit? So I don't know why today.
This is ridiculous here, and this is why we disempower ourselves, innit? For me, right, the idea that the white man wants Europe for Europeans, and maybe I can sympathize with that demand here, doesn't lead me to say that yeah, me and you are on the same thing. It's the stupidness, yeah. That same white man doesn't have an interest, yeah, in changing the power dynamics in the world as it stands right about now. I do, right? What's it called? And that is a qualitative difference.
I understand that.
So the idea that these are two sides of the same coin is a nonsense.
We're talking about in terms of just that one point in it, but everything else about how everything else to deal with it, like maybe invasion or whatnot and everything. Like obviously the group's different in it. Like you got some groups that amongst ethno-nationalists who are Europeans who say that they just want what's it called, France ethno-nationalism, French white people ethno-nationalism. You got British white people ethno-nationalism. Last time I went into what's it called, Pan-African different groups and Pan-African and whatnot and everything, and what they and whatnot and everything. So it's like it's not all, obviously it's not all the same in the sense of what the little details they want to go into and whatnot and everything. But ultimately, like the idea for Africa to be for Africans and Europeans to be for Europeans, that's the main goal they unite on. So,
Can I make a statement quickly?
Yeah, go
on. People that China as an state, ethno-national nation, yeah, ethnic as a whatever the term is, yeah. China are also willing to go into Africa and colonize, while they're also this so-called ethno state. Clearly, Pan-Afrikanism doesn't propose that, you know, upon you know, the joining and merging of all African peoples politically and economically and whatnot, that we are then going to go out and, you know, colonize and rinse out next people's.
Yeah, but that's again. So, that's what...
Wait. So I haven't even argued for the difference between ethnots and Pan-Africans. But that's the main one that I would say, is that there's no way that you can make that comparison, and that comparison is way more important. That's the biggest contradiction of terms that exists in the argument.
And this is what I'm trying to say, but these men, for some reason, don't want to actually address that, like it's not important. Like that's not a fundamental aspect.
Wait, the invasion thing. The invasion thing, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the intentionalities and the principles behind it.
Okay.
Pan-Afrikanism, for example, 1 second. Find me where the Pan-Afrikanist ideology is built upon we are superior to everybody else on the planet. Where is that? Where is it motivated by that sensibility?
Yeah, but
anywhere in the world.
No, you're right on that point. But like even actually no, there will be people that will say that as well. But let's not get into that, because you know there are people that will say that what's it called, black people are superior to white people. Like this, it's not playing that game anyway.
But that's not the Pan-African argument or sentiment, though.
There's some people who under Pan-African will say that. So it's not.
But that is not the Pan-African argument or sentiment, is it?
Let's say I agree with you, yeah, that there are some people among black people. Let's say some people among Pan-Africanists who might say that, yeah. Let's agree with you, yeah.
Yeah.
The ideology of white nationalism is built upon the superiority of white people. Is Pan-Africanism built upon the idea of the superiority of black people?
In some cases, there might be some people that think that as well, because obviously they're trying to fight back.
That's not the question. The question is it built upon that?
Yeah,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't built upon that.
Okay, then.
No, historically, I have to concede it there, because obviously when you talk going to Garvey talks about Pan-African in terms of what's called uniting everyone who's black, not that they were better than white people. So,
Shakara, this is why when I'm asking James what the coin is, the coin is contextual, isn't it? There's context. Like James is asking the question because there's a moral there's a moral conflict at the core of his question, right? And he's not dealing with the moral context of the ideologies, and it don't make no sense.
Trying to reduce it to argumentation and not principles is fundamentally flawed, because political ideologies are about principles. All ideologies, for example, if we deal with socialism, and they're saying, and what's it called, or communism, they're saying the working class are oppressed. The working class are an oppressed group. They're being oppressed by capital or the capitalist. So therefore, the capitalist is exploiting us. We need to rise up against capitalist system, and put the means of production in the hands of the working or laboring classes. That's what they're saying. By James Jones's logic, the basis of argumentation, the line of logic, is the same.
It's like saying there's these white nationalists, like school kids, and they go and shoot up a school and they kill 16 of their teachers, And I know the time frame is completely different, but it's like saying that and setting it against a slave revolt in Haiti, and 16 of the slave masters get killed, and it's similar. It's a similar political.
They were both saying "man for dead." That's what they were saying.
It's like similar political outcomes, and so therefore they're closer to each other. Doesn't matter what the reason was. Doesn't even matter the time period or whatever. The act itself and the political formation that comes out of it is the same, and so let's make that comparison. It's done.
Are they two? So we're not arguing. The question is not about similarities. The question is, are they two sides of the same coin? So I began by asking, well, what kind of ethno-nationalism are you referring to? Because there may be some similarities in Pan-Afrikanism and certain forms of ethno-nationalism. That may well be the case. If we're specifically talking about white nationalism, there will be some similarities. There's similarities between all political ideology on the face of the planet Earth. The question then becomes, that's a redundant point. The idea that there are similarities is redundant. The question is, what are the fundamental principles and what is the fundamental objective? That is the fundamental, because that's what's functional.
Well,
how the adherents of the ideology behave in the real world.
Right. And how do those things equate to them being part of the same coin? What is this blasted coin?
What coin? Let's delve into that. Sorry, is it a 50 pence?
Or
a 1 pound?
That was my
or a rupee? Or a naira?
Gentlemen, that was going to be one of my questions. Sorry, gentlemen, I've got to be a bit aggressive. Do forgive me. But that was going to be, what are the aims and objectives?
Let's go in
of each.
Yes, I.
You with me? What are the aims and objectives of Ethno-Nats? And what are the aims and objectives of Pan-Africa? And if they're the same, then there's an argument. If they're not, then the argument done.
And you know what, guys? You're gonna find that there's some Ethno-Nats here. They'll say one thing. They'll say, we want to control our borders, and you lot can leave, and we don't need nothing from you. Tutus now. They're gonna continue the expansion of Africa and other places, and not even contemplating that. In fact, they might even get worse.
I doubt it. Because the specificity is important.
I agree. So that's what I'm saying. If we can just get to the aims and objectives, James Jones, of each.
And by the way,
argument done, man.
We still haven't probed this idea of whether Pan-Afrikanism can be considered ethno-nationalism if there are various different ethnicities in Africa. We still haven't probed.
Thank you. Oh Lord.
You know what I'm saying?
Hold on.
The man them don't want to pre them something that the man them free them argument.
Wait, hold on. Because when we say ethnicity, even Aaron would even say that he considers the British whites and the German whites to be all the same ethnicity. So it depends how you say it.
But that's what my man's saying, though, Aaron Maselli. Like, if you go and do a Google, go to the .gov and ask and explore the what do you call it, the ethnic groups and whatnot. Like in one sense, they will bunch people together. Yeah, so they'll say white, British, Asian, whatever. But then like there's also even more detailed designations in it, and it's like well, choose one. If you're gonna put it this way, if there's such thing as an ethno-nats in Europe, in England, if there's ethno-nats in England, that include, I don't know whether they include gypsies in that, actually. I don't. Then ethnicity is something that, you know, that can be used as a measuring stick. And if that's the case, then Pan-Afrikanism can't be ethno-nationalist because of that.
On that point, another thing that I've been trying to say that I think is being lost in the conversation is that you have to pre the evolution of the ideology as well. So to take an ethno-nationalist argument of today, you would have to ask, well, has that always been the foundation upon which they've made their argument? When white nationalism and white ethno-nationalism developed as a force in the world, it was not based upon the idea that they're being hard done by these savages, right? It wasn't based upon, oh, they're taking our jobs and they're taking our women and all that. So what the ethno-nationalists are saying now, if you check the ideologies that they adhere to, the people that they celebrate, that's not what they were saying. These are people that were saying the sun will never set on the British Empire. These are people that were saying white man's burden. These are people that were saying civilizing mission. These are people that were saying kill the savages.
These are people that were raping other nationalities to have babies.
Exactly. These are people that were saying leave the Native Americans, enslave the savages in Africa because they have no souls. That's what they were saying. They weren't saying, well, boy, you know, we're being oppressed by the immigration of the niggers. Like, it's nonsense.
Them man were importing slaves, fam.
It's two totally different arguments. So even the history of the white nationalist argument today is not what their argument is today.
I think where obviously we've already said it. It's just that one point in it. It's just the fact that what's it called, Europe for Europe and Africa for Africa. But like obviously you've already agreed that if it's just that, then yeah, of course. But if obviously there will be other stuff where people will go into, and obviously if Aaron wants to jump on and explain his point, because obviously for me, when I listened to Aaron's argument, Aaron ultimately said that he just wants to trade. You don't want anyone coming in here. You don't want anyone leaving. So I would think that Aaron would agree with you really on that point. But I don't know, man.
I do still need to know what James is. Sorry that I keep saying this dumb word, but
I think James's point was just that point, that the fact that you use the word, you use the word black as like a term for them, using the word white as for them for themselves, in it. So that, I think that was just James's point from the girl.
No, his point is more than that, because there's a moral what do you call it? There's a moral there's something morally abhorrent to the idea of ethno-nationalism to James, and so he's viewing Pan-Afrikanism as that, right?
I can tell you my experience. Like I'm not, obviously I haven't heard people people in the Pan-African side say that they want to go out and kill white people, but I have heard obviously the common statement that white man is the devil, and you know, like what's it called, that if any white man tries to do anything, like, you know what I mean, like it's on in it. But like I've obviously to the idea of going out to kill white people, like, nah,
yeah,
man.
bro, there's people who are not Pan-Africanists who are black who want to kill white people. So like it's not unique to the Pan-African agenda at all.
What, the white man for dead still, you know?
I don't think Shakara believes that though.
The white man for dead still, you know? You know what I mean? That's why I affirm that still, you know?
You don't affirm that.
If you say it in a different accent, does it mean it's you?
I've heard Shakara say that. Well, you know, white people will join with us when they need to join with us, innit? So it's not like a thing where it's actually saying that.
Yo, no, that white man for dead thing might.
I'm waiting for James to come back so we can go into the idea.
So then, what do you mean by the white man for dead? Then, if we're not saying the same thing,
the white man for dead, innit? The white man for dead, you know, like pedophile for dead. You know what I mean? Pedophile for dead, still, you know. So white man for dead. You know what I mean?
So then, but that's how it sounds. That's why James will come and say, "Oh, you see, it sounds like you want to kill."
It doesn't matter, my brother. Do you know why? This is the argument that ethno-nationalists use. Yeah,
right.
It's political as an attempt to try and cede. Sorry, to reclaim the moral high ground that they've ceded. Yeah, so they can say, "Oh, but we're doing the same thing." Right? You see what I'm saying? It's political. Yeah, and evidently, those who have allegiances to this civilization, right, are susceptible to being seduced by the argumentation. Yeah, but to try and draw an equivalence between the people that are fighting a liberation agenda and the people that have historically oppressed and are trying to hold on to the spoils of their oppression is fundamentally flawed.
But hold on, but that's why you have to expand it. Obviously, I know it's political because race is a political term. Race is not even something that is actually exists, but in this sense of when we're talking about human beings. But when it comes to white man for dead, is it just for if they were ever to come and
I was being facetious.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the context of the liberation of black people, there have been occasions where the white man for dead, and I'm sure that some of those occasions will be evident in the future.
Will you ever say it for the
black
enemies as well?
Right now, there are scenarios.
Black man for dead, yeah.
What I'm saying is, my brother, that we're talking about the violence, of European people imposed upon African people, and in some of those instances, it has caused for us to take the life of Europeans. Yeah, that is just a reality. Yeah, that is just a reality, and so.
Have you guys actually taken the lives of Europeans? I've never heard that.
Well, I cannot confirm or deny. You know,
I can either confirm or deny.
Legolas,
Good evening. I was patiently listening.
Patiently waiting.
The cavalry have arrived.
I hope that James will come back because he did a great job in guiding us through the fundamental argumentation.
Well, you say he was a good advocate, for the thing.
Yeah,
No, he was just making the case of what I'm saying from the beginning and what is really annoying me. These double standards of no, we are different. No, we are not. And the only one that are acknowledging this, who are advocating this, right, is us. Is us, right? All the other identitarians, they all want their cake and eat it. All others. I mean, with some exceptions to the rules, like IC3. Right? And also I know a Jewish gentleman who is also on my side. But other than this, all the Jewish advocacy groups, they all want the same as Shakara. They want their cake and eat it.
What does that mean, have your cake and eat it, in the context of Pan-Afrikanism?
They want black power, but deny others this power, right? What? That is what they are saying.
You're cutting out.
Yeah.
By the way, can I just say, there are black nationalists, right? Some of them were called the Black Panthers, and they openly advocated black power for black people, white power for white people, yellow power for yellow people, brown power for black people, right? So again, this is total nonsense. Unfortunately, you're in a position whereby
maybe in the past, but now I don't see them.
Unfortunately, you're in a position whereby white power, in a functional sense, has been characterized by the disenfranchisement and disempowerment and even the dehumanization of our populations on the planet Earth. And so if those people
so does my Muslim
excuse me, if those people who have been historically brutalized by said people who have defined themselves as white and imposed a system of white supremacy on said people begin to challenge the dictates of white supremacy, you cannot call yourself, put yourself in a situation of, or in a position of moral equivalence with them. It's fundamentally flawed and even just dishonest to do that.
No, it's
I
not.
don't really understand that argument.
It's not, and we will never agree who has oppressed who the most,
that's the logic of
who
white
has suffered under which other group the most. We will never agree to this. So what we can, however, agree on, I hope at least you can agree on this, that every group has done something wrong in the past. And just because a group has done something wrong in the past, that they now can't advocate for themselves and have to go down and erased from the world, is fundamentally wrong. This is fundamentally wrong, and this is fundamentally racist and supremacist. I don't wish for any people to go down just because they have done something wrong in the past.
Unfortunately, the idea of just doing something wrong is not even the point. Yeah, we're talking about a global system of white supremacy that was instituted by the people of Europe. Yeah, and unfortunately, that system still persists in the world today. We haven't even gone into the fact that people like to differentiate ethno-nationalism as from the dominant world system that exists today, as though it's not ethno-nationalists, right? We live in a world that is whereby the majority of the world and global institutions are controlled by the people of Western Europe. Yeah, if that's not ethno-nationalism, I don't know what is. So the issue is the people that have been historically. The issue is that the people that have been historically and contemporarily disenfranchised and dehumanized as a result of those systems have a right to advocate on behalf of themselves, to try and draw a moral equivalency between those people.
Cutting out
and I'm cutting out.
Yeah, you need to start from like 15 seconds ago.
All right, okay. Sorry, the internet is run by a white nationalist, so unfortunately, black nationalists speak. You know what I'm saying?
We need to have that African internet.
Not by German nationalists. The internet here in Germany is so bad you have no idea.
I can imagine. I know that there are tribal wars between white tribes, so I understand that, England.
And just like there were tribal wars between blacks, right?
That's why we advocate Pan-Afrikanism. The issue is
before you begin,
we too. We don't want to have any more brother wars. We're against national chauvinism.
Hey, hold on, guys. Do you mind if I just ask? You said something about moral equivalence. Obviously, the conversation has progressed since I was last here. What are you arguing against now?
By the way, sorry, James. Did you hear Elron's applauding of your valiant efforts?
No, and if he were to repeat it, I would also not hear that either. So if you wouldn't mind,
yeah, I think. Well,
you're an attention, black man.
What I will do after this beautiful night here, the rest of the night, I will re-listen to what James has asked you, Chakra, over the last 1 hour, and I will write my questions, right? Because I have to go point by point in every bit to understand where you're coming from, where your double standards are coming from, and what the reasoning behind it is. If you're really believing in this shit you're talking about, or is it like a tactic from you, Chakra? That is what I want to know.
That's fine. And maybe some of those.
Big up James, man. Hey.
Yeah, James has done a great job.
He done good in it, Elron. He done a great job in it.
Yeah, I mean, he basically had pointed out what I was saying for months, and I was talking with IC3 about this, and no one seems to realize that. But I'm glad that James is now also pointing this out. All these other groups who are advocating for their groups, right? The Muslims, the Jews, the black nationalists, with some
already,
exceptions, especially in the past. I know that there were more alliance between white nationalists and black nationalists, but now they are almost nowhere to be seen.
No.
So they have completely flipped, and I think this is because they were taken over by cultural Marxists, right? That they are now in line with them against white nationalists, and therefore they are in line with the globalists.
So
right?
James,
The only thing
hold on.
that
James,
can stop globalism is to
James.
unite all nationalists of the world, not workers of the world unite as in communism, not all transgenders of the world and homosexuals of the world unite. No, all nationalists of the world unite.
James, is this you? Yo, James, is this your ideology, man?
Sorry, I just took a phone call. I missed all of that.
Nah, you didn't take shit. Is this your ideology, James?
I don't know what you're referring to.
James, you heard your boy. I just want to know, because I'm going after this. I'm not even gonna lie. Is what everyone just reiterate or iterating, should I say? Is that your thing, James?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know what he said.
No problem, man. No problem, brother. Yeah. Big up yourself, James. Big up yourself,
Can I say one thing though? Can I say one thing though? Yeah.
Big up, Atticus. Hey.
If one were to substitute cultural Marxism for white supremacy, and one was to substitute globalists for white supremacists or Western European hegemons, one might hear a very similar argument with regards to all of the sort of the connectors to those sort of trigger words. Yeah, one might have a very similar argument for somebody that's meant to be diametrically opposed to the person that presented the.
What does that mean to you, James? What does it mean to you? Quickly, what does it mean to you? What's the outcome of that? What's the outcome of those shared, so-called shared?
They have very similar arguments.
Yeah, but
no, I get it. So this is premise. If your ideology makes similar claims, therefore they right, whether the claims are true or not, yeah, they share the same foundation. It doesn't matter the veracity of the claims that are being made.
Foundation.
Just that they make 1 second. So it's impossible to qualitatively or functionally differentiate between them because they're making this supposedly making arguments from the same place, right?
That is literally begging the question. You're literally saying, oh, by the way, yeah, if these two similar arguments, yeah, make similar arguments, are they similar? Obviously, yeah, they're similar, isn't it?
That's what you just said. I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, I'm saying your bit.
In your framework, in your logic, yeah, the train of your logic in terms of argumentation, yeah. Let's replace all of them for capitalism and workers of the world. Yeah, the workers are oppressed by the capitalist fat cats, and as a result, it's the responsibility of the workers and the laborers and the peasantry to overthrow the capitalists and put the means of production in the hands of the laboring classes. Is that the same argumentation as far as you're concerned?
I don't know, man. This is all terribly done. That was just thrown together. I would have to inspect that a bit more. But I was lying. No,
I literally
think what is a better point that James is pointing out, because he's a neutral one, right? He doesn't want ethno-nationalism, whether it is from the black side or the white side, and that is why. Yes, some of the I call them civic nationalists or classical liberals. They and they are right in that analysis that ethno-nationalism. It doesn't matter which race you are advocating for. When you are not for supremacy over group, we are the same. We have the same goals. The goals are sovereignty for your own people. That should be basically the intentionality, right? That unites us. But you claim that behind closed doors, we have this other thing going on that I don't know what is it that you don't trust about what we are saying, but deeply behind the closed doors we want something else, right?
No,
that is your reasoning for why we can't advocate for white ethno-nationalism.
I haven't made the argument that you can't advocate for white nationalism. Unfortunately, history betrays your own argument. White nationalism.
So you're making that argument. So don't lie. Don't cuck now. You're saying because we have done something wrong in the past and apparently still doing because the world is still being led by white ethno-nationalism, according to you, right?
Excuse me.
Right? You think that the people in power in the Western world are really pan-Europeans, right? That is what they are, right, Shakara?
Excuse me. Thank you. The idea that just sovereignty, the loss of sovereignty is the basis of white nationalism is joke business. Sovereignty was not an issue when white nationalists were colonizing the world. They had sovereignty, manifestly, and they were seeking to imperialize their sovereignty to the detriment of other people around the world. And so the people that they had Western and white imperialism imposed upon them began to react, and respond, developing ideologies from among themselves that were able to knit them into a cohesive unit. There is no equivalency to be drawn between the need or the positioning or the justification for the sovereignty of African peoples in this instance, because we're talking about Pan-Afrikanism, and the need for sovereignty among white peoples. Unfortunately,
can you explain what these weapons are against white nationalists? Can you explain that to me?
Well, again,
because I know probably what this most effective weapon is.
And sorry,
that is because you have the double standards. I know exactly what the weapon is.
You are also correct that I don't consider liberalism to be any less a manifestation of ethno-nationalism or white nationalism. I don't consider globalization to be any less a manifestation of ethno-nationalism or white nationalism. I don't consider to be the Western axis as it operates in the world today to be any less a manifestation of ethno-nationalism or white nationalism.
All right. Then I was correct in my analysis of your positions, because this is fundamentally what I don't know if why you can't see that these unfortunately the people in power don't give me the memo that they are still white nationalists. They haven't given me the memo. They want to put me in prison because I have the wrong tactic
because you're
for white nationalism. That is what it is, right, Shakara?
Yeah, you're messing up the program. You're dealing with old school white nationalism. They're on a new school, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is.
White
so this is why they want.
Even within the dynamic that you are outlining, unfortunately, again, the history of the contemporary reality betrays you. The reality is you have a beef, with your white nationalist brothers and sisters. You don't have a beef with other quote unquote ethnicities who are oppressing you, right? You have a beef with other white people, and about the nature of your sovereignty, not the fact of it, but the nature of the sovereignty, because you have differences in terms of how you want white nationalism to run in the world today. Okay, that it is very different from the scenario where Pan-Afrikanists are concerned, where we are saying basically we don't actually have control over our resources, and therefore our resources are not being put to the benefit of our people. We need to relinquish the control of the white nationalists, whether they be globalists, colonizers, liberals, right wing, left wing, or whatever. We have to operate in a situation whereby we are able to use our resources to the best of our ability and for the benefit of our people. It's a very different thing, unfortunately. So I don't have a problem with you and your white brothers and sisters debating, fighting, and working out your differences among each other. But it still doesn't make your positioning and the basis of your argument fundamentally the same, and your intentions and your goals fundamentally the same as ours.
This is great. I mean, okay, so basically, I have nothing to worry about. I mean, if my brothers who are in power right now, right, are really white nationalists, they would never let someone like you getting in power. So I could stop my work, the work I'm doing for years now, because I have nothing to worry about. Even though I become my people become in a minority, right? This is all part of the plan.
It's a beautiful point,
right?
That's a beautiful point.
And you people that migrated here walked right into the trap. That's what it is, right, Chakra?
That's a beautiful point.
I'm glad that you enlightened me on this.
Yeah, I note your statement. Again, that if your leaders are indeed white nationalists, they will never allow us to get in power. That is the actual definition of white nationalism. In that respect, I'm being a little bit, I'm kind of overstating the point a little bit to say it's the definition, but it's very close to a primary principle and function of the ideology as it has developed in the world and continues to operate. At the same time, however, I think that white people who are concerned about immigration to white nations need to be more concerned and pay more attention to the foreign policy, the economic relationships in the world, and the historic realities that have brought this contemporary reality into existence in the first place. I think you do too much complaining about quote unquote ethnic minorities and not enough about white hegemony, global hegemony in the world that results in the migration patterns that we see in the world today. I'm not sure why that should be the case. At the same time, when we look at the history of white nationalism as it has manifested itself, we can see that it has resulted, for example, in the almost routine lynching of our brothers and sisters in America in the name of defending the rights of white people. In that regard, defenseless men, women, and children, and them kind of things there. And so, unfortunately, I understand, the game that is being played when white nationalists try to come and paint this moral equivalency between themselves and those who are fighting for their freedom. I understand the politics behind that, and I do not subject myself to that argument, unfortunately.
I will now explain to people why you think the way that you're thinking. Only a lunatic would normally be able to think like the Western power is pro my side, is fundamentally white nationalist, right? And concerned with white people. They want the best for the white people and everything like this, right? I have nothing to worry about. Well, I will get in the next hours, I will get on my Telegram groups and I will say to all the ethno-nationalist leaders in Europe, I will give them the memo that they are fundamentally on our side. We have nothing to worry about. And indeed, we should advocate for open borders more. Because this is part of the plan. Yes. This is a brilliant plan. I mean, and of course we should all let you vote so that you can vote whoever you want into the office, right? Because these people will fundamentally be on our side. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in power.
England should all vote, and we are going to decide who goes into number 10 Downing Street. The massive team of us. What a danger to the black population.
Hey, while this is really enjoyable, like just be cool what's being said here. Shakara believes that white ethno-nationalists are like the sort of the hegemons, and El Rondo believes, I imagine, the complete opposite of that. That it's actually people that want to sabotage the sort of values or the principles of white nationalism, and in actuality, they want more of multicultural society.
They're all in league, fam. This is all part of the same agenda.
But hold on, but then so both of you have demonized like this leadership structure or these global leaders, and you believe that they serve or they are actually equally detrimental to both of your causes, right? So if we were to take some kind of, I don't know, any political ideology, and we would say, you know, let's say you wanted sort of a laissez-faire capitalism, that was what you were in support of. Would you say that society was capitalistic or non-capitalistic? Now, there could be lots of different sort of capitalists, like for instance, globalists that have sort of that subscribe to capitalist sort of economic views, like an economic ideology. They may say, no, capitalist system is definitely instituted globally, like, you know, barring some specific examples, but it is instituted globally. We may want it to be more capitalistic, but it exists. The similarity amongst your two world beliefs is both of you believe that whatever the sort of official policy or official line from whatever global elites you're referring to, whatever their official line is, you believe is actually the opposite, and it's working against you and it's detrimental to you. That's another similarity.
Actually, and I was being facetious when I said that El Rondo is messing up the program. The reality is that we see the rise of the so-called right wing across Europe, because they are actually very much a part of the program. These are the people that are there to ensure that that Europe doesn't go too far. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That it preserves it conserves, the origin of the word conservative, its white nationalist roots. Yeah, these are the white fundamentalists, yeah, who keep the ship afloat in that respect. To remind everybody, listen, we're still white and we still got to run the world as white people. Yeah, so I don't see a dichotomy between these right-wing ethno-nats like El Rondo and the president of the United States or the prime minister of Britain or anything like that. They're all the bloody same, and they are all in place to preserve and sustain white power in the world. That's what they do manifestly. When I'm saying what I'm saying, it's evident in the world in the way that world politics is run. Yeah, it's very evident in the way that world politics is run. So no, I don't play them games.
Well,
right?
It's strange. So even the lister of the world, you're saying he's a white supremacist as well, right? Antifa and all these groups, they are all secret white nationalists.
By the way,
they just have a deeper knowledge of what this new kind of white nationalism is.
The other side to this equation is that the liberal white people are also play the role of giving us as African people, understanding that today's example is Pan-Afrikanism, the idea that there is a way open to us, yeah, in white Western society to keep us allegiant, yeah, to the West over and above our own natural and informed interest, right? To make us believe that we have more of an interest in identifying with Europe and things European than we do with ourselves, our own people, and things African. Yeah, and so the ultra white nationalists don't like that to some degree. Do you know what I'm saying? Rare. But for the global hegemon, it keeps the ship afloat. Right? If you can't beat them, join them. Too much revolt, you have to sue for peace. And you can see this throughout history. Whenever the fire gets a bit too hot, they give us some of us positions, and we all look at the position and say, the first black man or the first black woman in this position of progress is being made. Right? The liberal is to give us the illusion of inclusion into white Western society. And because we privilege white Western society over developing our own thing, we're gonna fall for that seduction time and time again until we adopt a more self-reliant ideology and trajectory to do for ourselves. So both of these examples, both of these are two wings of the same plane. Yeah, they both serve a purpose, and they keep the white Western hegemony afloat.
May I ask a question to the white guy?
Yes, please. I'm still processing what I just heard. I mean, this blows my mind.
Okay, let me just ask you.
Sorry, let's correct you before you start.
But Shakara, you're not the first one who I I'm trying to get my
African brother to put some respect on you, right?
Where I heard
you must
same
refer to
theories.
the white man as the white man, not
everything
the white.
you are saying is coming from the Frankfurt School. Everything you are saying, it is right off the book of the Frankfurt School. Man, you're being taught by the white man. By the white man to argue exactly this.
Ask me what you want.
And by the white man with the little hats on, right?
The white guy is most disrespectful. The white man.
Okay, a question for the white guy, right? In your opinion, why do you think is Germany encouraging migration?
Well, this is a deep question. There's many reasons for it. And it's very nuanced. There's different groups, different interest groups. You have the Marxists call capitalists. I would describe them as multinationalist globalist corporation, and they are in a kind of, they are not really for free markets like in what a classical Austrian capitalists are saying, right? The libertarian ones are saying, like what you understand normally under free market. No, there are these multinationalist corporations. They are working together with the governments. They are dictating what the governments are doing and what rules they should put in place to destroy the ones who are competing with them, right? The middle class. We are seeing that right now more clear than ever during the COVID crisis. We are seeing, I would almost call it like feudalistic monarchy being established right now,
which is being led by short, please.
Yeah. I'm trying. So this is the one branch, right? These multinationalist corporations who don't care about race. Okay, this is what you need to understand. They only care about profits and control. That's what they care about. And it doesn't matter if they have a Chinese guy who is the leader of this company or any other guy. Okay, this is the one branch. Then you have.
I got your point.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling you is, like, there is a birth deficit in Germany, right? So what happens is,
why is that? When we are white nationalists,
right?
When white or German nationalists are in power, why are they advocating for all the things that will lead to?
He's the white man. He must speak when he wants to speak. You have to.
Okay, without interrupting, let me just make my point, all right?
Yeah.
So this birth deficit means that, say for example, in 2018, I think for the first time, population was around 82 million, right? So that happened because there was a net migration of about 318,000 people to Germany, right? So this
it was much higher. From 2015.
Let me just finish and then you'll respond.
Yeah, okay.
So this birth deficit is being offset by net migration. So what the government is actually doing, the top 10 or 20 or 30% of the population, the elite or the educated ones, the ones that make the decision, not you, but the elite who are German and who sees the future and who wants to secure Germany for the, for their posterity, right? The educated, the elite, or whatever you want to call them. So those people make the decision that to offset this birth deficit, we need immigration. So this is purely economic, right?
Yeah.
So for Germany, immigration is a net benefit. And in 2000, say for example,
for the corporations,
in 10 years from now, 2030, the population of Germany is supposed to decline by about 3 million. That's the projection. So the only thing that's offsetting this birth deficit is migration. So that's why your government is making those decisions.
This is one reason. That is one reason out of many.
I'd imagine that most of those immigrants are white folks, but even if they're not, right? By the way, a quick question, right? And I've got a brief statement to make.
Let me repeat. It's
on this point.
Okay, one quick point.
What population of Germany is migrant?
There are about 63 million ethnic Germans left in Germany.
But what percentage? You said percentage.
63 million.
What percentage of the population?
You said 3 million against 63 million.
63 million ethnic German.
Yeah.
What population of Germany
3 million is thing? So 5%.
So 5% of German population is migrant.
It's about 21% non-German people in Germany.
So you're saying 12 million, you're saying that 12 million, there's like 13 or something million people that are non-German. That's what you're saying.
No, it's about 20 million non-ethnic German.
So you're saying a third of the country is fucking non-German?
Nonsense.
No, a fifth.
Wait, you're saying wait.
21.
Germany's population is 100 million, and you're saying 20 million of them.
No, 83 million people living in Germany.
Okay.
And what percentage of the population is?
I would assume that it would be less than 10%. I'm definitely sure about that. So
no,
I've got 14 point something percent.
Okay, out of those 14%, none of them are black. So this aversion to blackness, where are you getting this? Maybe
that's a good point.
About 800,000 are black.
Oh, that's a lot, isn't it?
What do you say? 1%.
Is that? But the reality is, sorry, can I just make this point here? So we're talking about, all right. So taking it, even giving it the macro designation of migrants, yeah, we're talking about at most 14 point something percent, right? Depending on how we define non-German migrant and so on and so forth, right? We're talking about 14 point something percent, right? What do you know the extent to which these people own or run the economy of Germany? This migrant population. What requisite power and control do they have over the political process and the economy of Germany?
Not much, I would say, because most of the immigration coming from out of Europe happens very recently, except the Turkish community.
Okay, so to draw an example, yeah, on the other side of this equation, right? In South Africa, yeah, we have a white population of less than 10%, yeah, and by some estimates, and these are the least conservative, sorry, the most conservative judgments, yeah, the white population in South Africa still runs about 80% of the economy, and some go as far as up to 90% of the economy. Yeah, that is the kind of disparity that we're addressing here. The idea that these that the ideologies are even remotely qualitatively equivalent is a joke. Yeah,
no, you have a totally false sense of how this thing was established in history. The one thing was in South Africa, it was conquering and from a tribe, right? If the Ottoman Empire conquers the Byzantine Empire, let's say in 2 years, right? Almost in 2 years, almost every power position would be of Ottoman heritage. Okay, that is what happens. And what this new kind of way is. It is like a peaceful ethnic cleansing and peaceful taking over of power structures, taking away the power of the German people. That is what the new kind of way of neocolonialism is about.
Oh, you poor thing. He's joke.
Yeah, that is what I mean. You have these double standards, right? You say, please have sympathy with us. Please give us back our sovereignty. But if it happens to you, it is a great thing, right, Shakara? This is what I mean. You're a total hypocrite.
By the way, yeah, when you were gone, right, I made this point, and it's probably important that you hear it, yeah. Again, in terms of the argumentation and the line of logic that you're applying to white nationalists today, that has not always been consistently the line of argument in terms of the development of the ideology of white nationalism. And I would argue that it is a very recent argument. And we're talking about the last 20 years at the most, yeah.
Yeah, but that in itself. We went to cover it. That's genetic. That would be a genetic fallacy anyway. I'm talking about contemporary.
No. We're talking about the ideologies, right? And so
I'm talking about contemporary level.
No. You cannot divorce and separate an ideology from.
Why can't I?
Well, you can if you want, but it's just dishonest, and it's not. It does.
How is it dishonest? Why? What the fuck has it got to do about its trajectory? Listen, the way it arrived.
No, you're saying.
Hold on. The way it arrived.
You're making the argument that these ideologies use the same argumentation to justify themselves. You would have to look at the history of how the thing developed.
You don't. Why would you? Why? Tell me why.
Oh, fine, my brother. You don't. If you don't want to, and I understand why you don't.
You said you have to. Why?
Because that does justice to understanding the development of the ideology.
Why does that contradict? Why does the history contradict what is the contemporary analysis? Why?
It's called context. So if you're gonna put
context, that's another. Well, I don't give a shit about context.
I tell you something, Shakara. I tell you something. Whenever the Europeans were weak, we were indeed invaded. We were invaded when we were weak. Okay. The only thing why we wasn't invaded over the last hundreds of years was because we were strong. Okay? And we are already seeing, even though we are in power and all these people in power are these white nationalists, we are living in the same country, and you as powerless people, powerless black people, commit way more murder as powerless people and as people that fear the white people because they are the majority and because they are holding power. You are murdering us in the same country, living in the same country, more than we kill you.
All right, okay, thank you.
So, what will it be when you are in power, Shakara?
Please stop, man. Please, I beg you, stop, please. Like, at this point, no one's listening to the things you're saying because they've heard them before. So you're not like, it's a waste of your own breath. But Shaka, to directly address your point, and this will prove your hypocrisy, right? Because you agreed with this understanding, or you agreed that this was fallacious reasoning in relation to Jedi's statements about Kwanzaa. So let's see if you still hold the same views now, yeah? So a genetic fallacy is a fallacy of irrelevance that is based solely on someone or something's history, origin, or source, rather than its current meaning or context. You agreed with that for Kwanzaa. You agreed with that when it was in relation to your argument.
That's a fundamentally different argument. I'll accept that maybe I misunderstood what you were coming with there, but that's a fundamentally different thing. The idea in the former, in what you just brought up, is the idea that the imperfections of the founder, invalidate the purpose of the ceremony, right? And I'm saying that would be incorrect. If you are saying that these two ideologies are built upon the same foundation, you cannot.
You said that.
You didn't say it, James. You didn't say it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So yeah, just to be clear, no, and to be honest with you, this is me being generous. I'm doing your homework for you.
No, actually not. You're being fundamentally disingenuous, but it's fine.
No, I'm not. I finish what I'm saying. You decided to stop speaking, and when I started speaking again.
The reality is, white nationalism and white ethno-nationalism as an ideology is not built upon the idea that they're being disenfranchised by anybody. It's built upon the idea of the supremacy of white people.
Built upon? Where's the built upon the stuff? Bro, I beg you, can you save your strong? Can you save your
Pan-Afrikanism as an ideology has been consistent.
You're just over talking now, bro. You're just over talking now. It's just crazy. You're just over talking. I started speaking. You're over talking.
With all due respect, you're not even being honest with your argument at the moment.
You're just over talking me. Before I was able, you asked me a question. You asked me a question, then you said, all right, fine, I'll accept it, as if you were going to go quiet. Then I started speaking, and then you just started machine gunning absolutely nothing. How about you let me say what I'm going to say, right? Cool. I've said from the offset, argumentation, I haven't even specified white nationalism. What I actually said in relation to white nationalism, I said that's an example of how how Pan-Afrikanism and ethno-nationalism could be similar. And I said, you take a model of ethno-nationalism, you take a model of Pan-Afrikanism, that is exclusionary Pan-Afrikanism, that is exclusionary ethno-nationalism. And I say the exclusionary common property between both of them, that is the similarity. That was one example I used. I also conceded at the very beginning, there are many different models. There's a multiplicity of models, of models of ethno-nationalism. So white nationalism isn't isn't going to be the sort of representative for all ethno-nationalist models. Now, back to the original point. Regardless of on what terms you accepted it on, or the specific context you accepted it yesterday, right? I can't speak to that. I don't know, whenever it was that we spoke about. I can't speak to that. However, this perfectly fits a genetic fallacy, and I'll say it one more time just so you know, because this is considered in actual in logicism, right? Sorry, by logicians, right? So by people that actually look at what arguments produce valid conclusions, right? And they're saying this is a fallacy. This cannot produce a logical conclusion by saying something is saying that something based solely on the history, right, or its origin is sorry, let me just read it out. It's better to do it like this rather than paraphrasing. A fallacy of irrelevance that is based solely on someone or something's history, origin, or source rather than its current context or meaning. So if if you're trying to assess whether something is similar contemporarily, like right now, is this thing similar to something else, right? It's absolutely irrelevant how they've achieved or how they've managed to reach this point, because the question is doesn't concern its origin, its trajectory, its history, its path to this current point. It concerns the current point. And I'm saying to you is it's similar. So unless you've got an argument for why it is, there's no way.
I think, James.
Sorry, it's very simple.
What you should do is make a screen share of this, of this definition. This is a great point. You're very good at this argumentation and
the question is
bringing up what rhetorical skills that is.
The question
straw
is,
man and everything. James is very good at this.
The question is, are ethno-nationalists and Pan-Africans two sides of the same coin? There is nothing here that suggests that we can only speak from a contemporary point of view. The reason why you're doing that is simply because you want to draw a false equivalency behind the ideologies. And I'm saying to you that it doesn't even make sense to do so, because all ideologies have histories. We've been probing the history of these things from the entire conversation, and I've been making this point, and you haven't said that all now. I am not saying that the history invalidates the present. One second. I am not in fact saying that the history invalidates the present. I am saying that the history actually explains why they have come to this point of argument. And I'm not even saying that this is a universal argument among ethno-nats, because not all ethno-nats white nationalists argue that they are
ethno-nationalist. You just admitted that you could be considered an ethno-nationalist.
Excuse me. Not all white nationalists argue from the perspective of being oppressed by these ethnic minorities and so on and so forth. That's not universal among white nationalists, right? It's not the ubiquitous white nationalist claim, yeah, or form of argumentation.
No one is saying that.
Even that is fundamentally false. So to say that this is their argument, yeah, as though it is their ubiquitous argument is false, right? But there is nothing about this question that suggests to us that we can't probe history. Nothing about it whatsoever. It's just inconvenient.
No one that I ever encounter is saying
to do so.
Not one is saying that we are oppressed by minorities.
Really?
Not one.
Right in the back. Really?
Not one, yeah. Well, unfortunately, that exposed the entire argument, then, doesn't it? The reality is,
no, it doesn't.
No, I'm not talking about your argument, so relax, right? The reality is, yeah, that this is not the fundamental white nationalist argument. Yeah, it's not, right? So even that is a fallacy. But again, nobody argued, coming to the logical fallacy that you're accusing me of, that the history invalidates the present. The history explains the present. And all I'm saying is that
I don't know what you're doing. Like you know what is a
line of argumentation, bro. With all due respect, here, the man just done told you that what you're
James, please make a screen share and repeat what you just said.
Listen.
Please, I have to.
You believe that. Hold on. You believe that somehow that all me and whoever you refer to, John, Hume, or Locke or something, bro. You assume that somehow we're all in tandem, like. Bruv, I'm very independent with my analysis. I think, listen. All right, listen. How can he invalidate my argument when it's a critique of his own position? When 90 friend was asking, is L1 your boy? Are you like, bruv?
No, absolutely not.
I'm critiquing both of your positions. So I doubt in the same way, hold on, please, L1. The same way you don't accept it, what does that invalidate my argument now as well? Because you don't accept it. You're obviously biased to shit too. Back to your other point. I'm not sorry, I don't want to insult you. I didn't mean Dunning-Kruger in that sense. I mean that you compound your errors often. You argue like points that aren't necessarily up for debate. I provide an argument, right, for why the historical context invalidates it. You began your statement with it. Obviously, it doesn't invalidate. However, everything you said there is irrelevant after that point. If you don't disagree with me. Another example of this. Another example of this would be that when you said that Pan-Africanism could potentially be a form of ethno-nationalism, therefore my argument would stand just based upon that concession alone. Also, when you said you don't reject earlier, this is a quote, a direct fucking quote, that you don't reject that they are two sides of the same coin. Now you're arguing as if I've made a positive claim.
I never said that, bro.
Hold on. Right at the beginning, I will find this. I will find it. I will find it. So relax. Don't worry. You hear your own words soon enough. Don't worry about that. Yeah. You said that you don't reject the initial the question of the day. You said that you don't reject that. All of that contributes to the cool. All of that contributes to the same idea that that's so all of that, right? All of that invalidates all of the sort of extra talking you've done for absolutely no reason. But if I was to just do it finally, and I asked for MA, if you're still there, I asked for you earlier when I first came back. I said, MA, you there? So I wanted to ask you a really simple question. Yeah, I thought this was a bit direct. When I was eating my dinner, I thought of it. The question is if that coin, because you asked me a question, MA, you said, what is the coin? If the coin was separatism, could we make that argument that Pan-Afrikanism and ethno-nationalism, or white ethno-nationalism, or European, pan-Europeanism, whatever you want to say, that these are two sides of the coin, and the coin is separatism? Could we say that?
Again, you're fabricating at the moment, right?
No, I heard you say that, Shakara. And the only thing why you said that we differ is because we are the oppressors and you are the oppressed.
Okay.
That's it. That's cultural Marxist propaganda, right? They're always, and they're using you. They don't believe in black power.
I should be used by you.
They are fucking using you to gain power. They have just switched from the workers against the bourgeoisie. They now are using racial minorities and every other degenerates, like the transgender people and every degenerates out there. They are using it to make a revolutionary kind of
at this moment you're like a fly.
Clash of civilization. That is what, and they are hoping that out of this clash they will then install communism. They are communist utopia. That is why they are using you, and you are using them. And if you're not understanding this, you are either stupid or you are arguing in a bad faith, and you're just not honest about it.
Good stuff.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the quote to be found where I made that statement, and we'll see what was being said there. At the same time, I'm not sure. There's two things that has just happened here. One, it's being decided somehow that looking at the development of these ideologies is not relevant to the conversation that we're having. I'm not sure on what basis that is being said. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right, whatsoever. And there is no objective criteria upon which somebody can tell me that the history of the argumentation within white ethno-nationalism, white nationalism, and Pan-Afrikanism can be irrelevant to a conversation on our ethno-nationalists and Pan-Africanists, two sides of the same coin. Yeah, there is no justifiable objective standard upon which someone can tell me that looking at the development of these things, yes, and the evolution of argumentation within these ideologies is not a valid component of a conversation like this. It might be inconvenient for some, but that doesn't make it invalid from an objective point of view. The second thing I'd like to say is that a part of this European hegemony and white nationalism is the idea of original thought. And so they always think that they can define people's thoughts and pigeonhole them into some tradition among white culture. And this is this argument from cultural Marxism all the time, right? It's as though oppressed Africans waited to the 1800s for Marx to let us know of the condition that we were in, and we never had any philosophy of how to alleviate that condition before Marx. Yeah, it's an interesting white paternalism. Yeah. That the white right wing likes to impose upon black people, to tell us, yeah, that we are being used by their liberal white brothers and sisters, and so we should somehow align with them, yeah, and be used by them. it's a nonsense argument, a fundamentally nonsense.
It's like it's a white liberal and a white conservative. Two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Like
that is in fact two sides of the same coin. Yeah, the white.
Like Shakra, you just described the political system here in America in like one sentence.
And the white liberal. That's two sides of the same blasted coin, right? Now, finally, with relation to Jason's argument, again, if you check my initial statement,
where do you get these words? That is the only weapon you have, Sakura. Let me ask you, what are these weapons that you are using as a Pan-African to fight against white supremacy and white nationalists?
It would be European of you.
What are these weapons? These secret weapons you're talking about, Sakura? Tell me.
Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of a statement, so you're gonna have to wait to get that question answered. If at all.
No, I asked you that question
I'm not interested in
half hour. You haven't answered
At the moment, I am not finished making the statement that I'm making, so your question can wait.
Go on.
Where was I up to? What am I saying?
Well, me saying that you are using the white ideas.
I was talking about something.
In response to James' question,
I was talking about something that James said in relation to the my initial statement, in relation to ethno-nationalism, and you said I was belittling the conversation, James. Yeah, he's probably not even listening because he's trying to find me saying this thing that I never said. But the idea that one could call Pan-Afrikanism a form of ethno-nationalism was said from long down the line. There are similarities between white ethno-nationalists and Pan-Afrikanists. That was said way down the line, in as much as there are similarities between in as much as there are similarities between every political ideology. That was said way down the line. So these are not things that are being argued in any way, shape, or form. I understand the political ramifications and implications and the political ploy behind trying to draw an equivalency between the principles and the goals of Pan-Afrikanism as in relation to the principles and the goals of white nationalism, and I reject that assertion absolutely 100% because I understand its political implications.
What are these principles?
Hold on, 1 second. Hold on, please. Sorry, please give me just 1 second. I just want to play something, just so you know why I said what I said. Yeah.
Imagine, based upon that sort of inference, you've drawn from the differences between the two nationalist parties, you would say then that there's an incorrect statement. No, that ethno-nationalists and Pan-Afrikanists are not two sides of the same coin. This would be your argument, correct?
No, I'm saying that it would depend on which form of ethno-nationalism is being referred to.
Yeah? So you do reject that statement? Yeah, you do. So then why would you make me fucking go?
Do you notice though that that's not saying that white nationalism and Pan-Afrikanism are two sides of the same
I didn't say it said anything other than exactly what you just said.
Maybe I misheard, but you remember. But notice the statement that I made. I said it would depend. I never accepted what's it called? An assertion.
You said it was the same side. I didn't say. I said you said.
You said then, James. He has to explain then what. Wait, what form of white ethno-nationalism would be legitimate to you, Shaka?
No, hold on, 1 second. Hey, answer Elron's question after. No, sorry, I said, hold on. I said, hold on. I said you don't reject it, and I just proved that you don't reject it. And why? Because it's based upon a particular composition of ethno-nationalist definition.
That's not what I recall you saying, but fine. No, I don't absolutely reject it. Like I said, it depends on the form of ethno-nationalism that we're talking about. So yes, I agree that there are forms of ethno-nationalism that would share similar principles or goals to Pan-Afrikanism. I definitely.
And then did MA answer my question? Did MA ever come back?
May I say something, guys? I think I would say that the distinguishing difference from these two ethno-nats and Pan-African is one is a reaction of the other.
Thank you.
No, but I asked MA a question. I asked MA if the coin that he requested clarification on was separatism. Would you all be happy to accept now that white nationalism and black nationalism were two sides of the separatist coin, i.e., one?
there are no
distinguishing characteristics.
There are no.
One is the reaction of the other.
But either way, separatism is a fundamental component of every kind of nationalism, no matter what its basis.
Yeah.
Every nationalism is separatist to some degree.
Yeah.
Well, first, I want to make sure what the main difference between me and Chakra is. I'm not a pan-Europeanist. I don't want to get rid of the diversity of the European people.
My friend, please, yeah, 1 second. So then, if every single nationalism is based upon separatism, and someone argued that the coin that what the person is referring to is separatism, then make the argument for why it is not. Then why they could not share the same coin.
Again, all nationalisms, may share a coin when it comes to.
Say that Pan-Afrikanism is based on separatism.
So anywhere where there's a border on a passport you have to get in, or a visa or anything like that, there's some separatism going on somewhere in some way, shape, or form. That is assuming, however, that the coin is actually separatism. Now, if you want to make the coin separatism, then that could be a relevant argument. Is the coin actually separatism? You know what I'm saying? It may well be.
So you can argue that it's not based on separatism at all. It's based on union of black people.
Well, union on one level and exclusion on another level, right? You know what I'm saying? The union of African people.
Based on unionism, is that not
the union of African people, on a Pan-African basis presupposes the exclusion of non-African people to some access to the power, the exclusive power that African people amass, right? And that would be historically sensible based upon this reality of Africa's not having franchise, not having access, proper access to our land and resources in the way that we should, in a way that would allow us to live productive lives and them kind of things. So that would make sense, right? But all power is like that. All power is intended to be exclusive to the people that hold that power, justifiably or unjustifiably. So that this is the point I'm making is that this is not a relevant variable. Right.
So again, James, all he's disagreeing on is based on assumptions that what I am saying is not true, and that I have some other goal in mind, that I won't let Chakra have his sovereignty over Africa. That's all. And he can always assume that, and based on that, he can deny me the advocacy of my people.
No one denied you
anything. On assumptions.
You notice that? Nobody's actually denied you anything.
That's it, right, Chaka?
No one's actually denied you anything. And by the way, I never said that you wouldn't allow. You said if your white governments right now are truly white nationalists, they would never allow us to get into power. You said that. It wasn't a statement that I made. And nothing that I have said.
This is what you laid out to me. I just followed your logic and brought it to the point.
Nothing that I have said it inhibits or even suggests an inhibition on your capacity to advocate on behalf of white people. Nothing.
Man, you're not listening to your own words. Replay the stream. Just like you said, you never said that white people, the white elites, the current elites, won't let you into power. You make that argument. You asked me the question: how many minorities are in power positions in Germany? So you clearly made that statement. What? And now you're denying that you ever made that statement.
I asked you a question. You gave an answer, and then there was an analysis.
No, and before I mean, James, I don't know how you can.
The point of that line of reasoning was that Germans, and which is your particular brand of white nationalism, are dealing with a percentage, an immigrant percentage of at the most 14%, who do not have any serious economic or political power.
20%.
Well, let's say that's the case. What 20% that have no, by your own admission, no significant economic or political power, versus less than 10% in a nation like South Africa, whereby they have an overabundance of economic and political power. That is the disparity in the realities upon which the realities that the respective ideologies are trying to solve. So qualitatively, Yeah, there is like to draw an equivalence between these two things is a fundamental act of dishonesty, and it is in fact designed, yes, to maintain the system, yeah, of white Western hegemony and power in the world. That is what it's designed to do, because to draw that equivalency means that you are not allowed to therefore challenge white power because you're just coming from the same place as them. It's joke business.
Let me explain to you what this process of migration was and how it has changed. So first, they made the excuse to the Germans that the Turkish guest workers are only guest workers, and they're here temporarily based on our contracts with the Americans. The Americans wanted that military base in Turkey, and we have to help the Americans because the fucking Americans has supposedly freed us, right, from this tyranny. Even though they have starved millions of my people after the war and everything, we have to get on our knees and thank them that they have freed us, right? Even though millions of our women have been raped by the Russians, we still have to bend down every year and thank our the freedom, the successors of the World War, right? The British, the Russian, former Soviet Union, and the Americans, right? We have to thank them for everything like this, right? So this is the first thing. And the migration based, first of all, the overall majority of the German people were against it. But the promise was made that it is based on merit, right? So this is what they had in mind. So you can rise up in your power ranks if you have the merit for it. Now, this has changed. And that is why you see now in an, how do you say it, exponential rate, people of minority backgrounds in media positions of power over the last years, because the cultural Marxists have totally taken over these classical conservatives, right? That base their kind of capitalistic ideas based on merits, right? That has completely changed.
Wait,
now,
guys, are these Marxists white or black? Are they minorities or are they black? Are they white?
Minority, yeah. You have to based on females. Now they have decided in Germany that you have to have in each party 50% of women and everything like this, and they're making the same statements in.
No, but I'm asking, is the power structure in these parties though? Are the power structures in these parties like minority ran or they white ran?
No, they're still white ran, but this will change.
Oh, okay. So you're still winning in the end of the day, right?
And it has already changed in an exponential rate. If you compare it to 5 years ago, you would see an increase never seen before, okay? So this is changing already. And in other countries like America, it has already changed much more than in Germany, right? You have much more black judges, black politicians in politics, mayors, and so on. We doesn't have that because America was the first model. The avant-garde of the melting pot was America, and to some extent also I would say, yeah, America was the forefront, in my opinion, of this. Everything comes out of America because America is the hegemon of the Western world. Everything that is happening in America will later occur in the European countries. Okay, that is what you need to understand.
Listen, America and Europe are fundamentally two different geographic and economic, and their beginning is
like America was literally built because of immigrants.
Yeah. But one thing I just want to, because everybody's been talking, and I just like to say hello to everyone. I just wanted to say this one thing to Arundel in regards to you complaining about the fact that you have to constantly thank the Americans for this and that. In all honesty, Arundel, it's because your country fucking lost. You know, as one person who came from a country who was a former empire and actually lost to many other subsequent conquerors and empires. When an Arab turns around and says to me, "Yeah, your people lost and we took your land," I kind of have to eat humble pie, because my people lost to those fucking Arabs. My people lost to the Mesopotamian Alexander too. So I can't really go, oh, you fuck you. No, my people lost, their people won, and I have to now eat humble pie for that reason. Although prior to that, my people did some winning. And it's the same with your people. Your people fucking lost. You started a genocidal fucking war and you lost. So yes, now you got to kiss ass. You got to. You're complaining why I have to kiss ass and eat humble pie because my people started a fucking genocidal war and lost. You fucking lost. If you had won, it would be the Americans that would be sucking Hitler cock right now. But you didn't win. So now you have to kiss their ass.
Banksy, just to be clear, is your argument that his people lost?
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they fucking lost.
It is not being humble at all. That is an understatement of what the German people have to do every year.
Y'all didn't lose once. Y'all lost twice, bro.
We can't. Was heißt trauern? Trauern. Wait.
You're 0-2 right now.
When this is done, I wonder when this is done. Can we ask if Africa lost? And let's see. If
I think the word is grief or mourn. Grief or mourn.
Wait.
We can't. When we are saying
that's a good.
When we want, for example, right in Dresden, when we want to be said, I don't know the right wording of this, but if we are doing that for our fallen people, and you have to understand, Dresden was not a military basis, right? The bombings there, which really was against the
Europeans declared war
the laws of wars, right? Where approximately 300,000 of people have died in one attack, right? Over 2 days.
Who started bombing?
If we are saying, if we want to be sad for the people, they are calling us Nazis, okay? So tell me any other country like Japan that was also under the losing side, they can't be sad for their fallen people. This is one in a history. I know no other country that has.
To be fair to Germany, though, let's be fair to Germany. They are intentionally devaluing their military currently because they don't want to scare other members of NATO. Like it is currently happening.
They're crazy. But listen, hold on.
Germany is currently purposely defunding their military.
Rwanda. So just to be clear, the Allies or Britain declared war on Germany. Germany didn't declare war on Britain, correct?
Correct.
Britain started bombing civilian targets before Germans did, right?
Yes.
So wouldn't you argue that it's actually the inhumanity of the British and the European allies that caused Germany to respond how they responded? And actually, from a moral perspective, it wasn't so much that Germany lost, it's that Europe was prepared to do things that Germany was never prepared to do in the beginning.
Well,
yeah, it's a nice try too.
Well, I couldn't say that.
I'm nice.
It's a good try.
Well, I can't say that the Germans during that time hasn't done anything wrong. Right?
I'm sorry.
Say that.
Was it the Brits that
but
forced
the war on Poland?
Was it the Brits?
Because you're only getting the history that the victors is writing, right? Before Germany has declared war on Poland, which started that Britain and France declared us war, right? And it was never about any atrocities or any victims of any other nation, okay? Let's be clear. Because if this was the case, right, that they want to save innocent lives, they would have declared fucking war on the Soviet Union, where millions of people have died even before World War II, okay? No one gives a damn about these millions of Ukrainians and Russians that were slaughtered by these communists and Bolsheviks, right? No one is talking about this. No one has declared war on the Soviet Union. Okay, so this was not what it was about. And before Hitler declared war on Poland, the Polish people were massacring. It's called the Bromberg massacre, massacring thousands of Germans in that night. And only after this, Hitler declared war on Poland, and rightfully so, in my opinion, because no other nation would go and let thousands of their own people die without reacting.
I've forgotten the British historian who said this, but he said something along the lines of Britain always acted as though they had an altruistic reason for the genocide that they committed, or something like that. So I can't. But the person said it more eloquently than I've just said it just now. But unfortunately, I can't remember the exact quotation of the person who said it. One day I'll remember and bring it to you. At the same time, though, because I don't even Erondo is not even creating what James just did in relation to that question that he was asking.
I just want to. Oh, sorry.
At the same time, I'm not even sure. I'm not an expert on World War II, but I'm relatively sure that at least the justification from the British side was partly the invasion of Poland, and them kind of things there. And
but the Germans said.
Hold on.
One second. And the whether you believe it or not, the extermination of the Jews in Germany and them kind of things there. At the same time, at the same time, that would remain a dispute between white Western cousins, and a significant aspect of that dispute was, in fact, the fact that Germany was still vexed because after World War One, all of its colonial oppressions were taken from it by the rest of the other European nations.
Before you go, can I
on both sides of that equation, I'm on my last sentence, my brother. On both sides of that equation, they were actually operating within the confines
in tandem.
Of white nationalism.
Can I 1 second? Please. One point. But the Germans would say that it was number one, it was their right to protect the German diaspora in Poland. That is the case that they actually made, and Adolf did make himself, right? And not only that, so ultimately they're victims, but they also pointed to other examples of the Europeans, of the British and the Allies not intervening in other situations in which there was annexations and their allies themselves were intervening on behalf of diaspora.
Hold on, sorry, I've been meant to make this statement for two speakers. I just want to say, since we're talking about poor downtrodden Hitler, I just want to bring up another misunderstood figure of history who is clearly misunderstood, and that is Genghis Khan. I feel that he has been tarnished. His reputation, his good reputation, has been tarnished by the history books because I don't think he did nearly enough raping and pillaging. I think those were just not. They were misunderstood raping and pillaging.
So if we,
you can make that example, for example, right? Where I totally disagree with Hitler on was the expansion into the east. He clearly wrote that in Mein Kampf, right? That he wanted to expand the German territory into the east. So for the Russians, for example, or the Ukrainians, they would have even a justification, in my opinion, based on that Hitler was in power, to even maybe preactively attack Germany based on that, because they knew that Hitler was trying to do that. But Poland was totally in the wrong. Britain was totally in the wrong when it comes to their justification of the war. I would say, however, that the Russians, not the fucking Soviets and the fucking Bolsheviks, okay, but actual genuine Russian nationalists should be afraid of Hitler, okay.
Either way, right?
And the Jews as well. I would say
if we are indeed allowed to take into consideration German arguments against the British, then it should mean that we are allowed to take into consideration the context of all of this in general, which was the Western colonization of the world, right? What these people were agreed upon is that the world was going to be run by one of them. They might have been in a dispute about who was going to be in the supreme power position, and all of this was an act of white supremacy, white nationalism, ethno-nationalism, and the like, right? All of it was, yeah. So ethno-nationalism doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have any disputes among you. Yeah, you might do. It doesn't make it any less ethno-nationalism. These people were trying to hold onto or attain or expand their colonial possessions. Yeah, it's a significant amount of what this all was about.
Shakara,
right? So
you're making it again as if this is some kind of exclusive thing to white people. Banksy has just mentioned Genghis Khan. You know, one of the first unification away from ethno. No, let me please finish this one thought, okay?
If I may,
the first unification, and this is the difference between an ethno-nationalist and a pan-Europeanist, okay? The first unification of the European people were indeed under the attacks from the Mongolian, from Genghis Khan, where the Europeans came together, get away from all the national disputes and the monarchy dispute under each other, right? And they united against the Mongolians and Genghis Khan. That was the first time, and that was a reaction, a pan-European reaction to Genghis Khan. Okay, so you can say yes, the first pan-Europeans that ever came together and worked together was a reaction to the Mongolians. So we were weak, and every time the Europeans were weak, we were attacked by other groups. So it's not an exclusive thing to us.
I'm just noting this tendency that you have, yeah, to speak when you want to speak, regardless of who's speaking and irrespective of the protocol of the panel. Yeah, I'm noticing that, and I think that's one of the ways, the small ways in which white nationalism manifests itself.
We say different ways. That's the difference. Yeah.
What's it called, right? The reality is, yeah, that the gentleman just said, yeah, that ethno-nationalism is different to pan-Europeanism. Yeah, yeah. I'm just pointing that out and emphasizing the statement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me explain that once again. Ethno-nationalism. So really what I am is an ethno-pluralist, okay? I want to preserve the regional not authorities, the regional identities and sovereignties, yes, of the different tribes of the German people, right? That is what I don't have in common with Hitler, for example. Right? He was only a German nationalist. Even go farther, he was a pan-Germanic kind of nationalist. Right? I'm against that. I'm against a big Germanic empire. I want to preserve the national identities as well as the regional identities. The only time I'm a pan-Europeanist or white nationalist is when an outside force is threatening us. Okay, that is when I'm saying yes, let's totally work together and let's get away of all the nationalistic things, and when it is the necessity for it. I don't want to have one like the European Union, one centralized government.
Hold on,
in Europe, I'm against that, and that is what you want, Shakira, right? For Africa, you don't.
I know. A few months ago,
you don't want Ethiopia anymore. You want one big state. I'm against that.
Elron,
I don't care what dirty Babylon say, what they say of I. I forgot them song there.
Yeah, hold on. For Elron, yeah, a few months back when I spoke to you, you were upset with Jupiter, the fact that she didn't want to unite Britain and Germany as one European thing. Are you saying you've changed your mind since then?
No, you must misunderstand what the ethno-pluralistic worldview is.
No, you were calling yourself an ethno-nationalist, and you're saying that people like Jupiter are traitors because they marry out of their race.
Yes, but the broader point is that Jupiter, in my opinion, is a national chauvinist, and that her national chauvinistic worldview is purely based on an abstraction. she doesn't care of the ethnic group of Britain. Okay, let's be clear. But she believes that the British mentality is superior and should rule, go even farther than just ruling Britain. It should rule basically the world. She's still in that old kind of mentality of the British Empire, and I'm against that, because we have seen what that has led to in the past. I'm totally against that. That is why I'm promoting, on the broader perspective, away from the regional perspective of identity and the national sense of identity without the chauvinistic part, right? I'm also advocating for a sense of the European people as being part of the European civilization. Okay, you're not only part of Britain or Germany, you're also part of the European civilization. And if we have an understanding like this, I think this will have prevented the brother wars of the First and Second World War.
That is the biggest load of bullshit I have ever heard in my fucking life. I know for a fact you all absolutely believe that you are more superior than most other races and cultures. You put yourselves ahead of just about every other culture. The only time you can't talk shit is when it comes to IQ, and that's because the Chinese or the Oriental and the Jews kick your ass in it. But in every other facet, you consider yourselves more superior to the Browns. You constantly, I hear you guys fucking talk. You honestly think your publicly viewed streams where you talk shit about brown people isn't viewed?
You don't get what I just have said. I said that Jupiter is still of the mindset that it is basically legitimate to have, because you can be a supremacist. I don't care if you're a black supremacist in Somalia or something, okay? As long as you don't intervene with my country, I have nothing against that. I don't want to dictate black people and say, no, they are wrong from their perspective of history or anything like this, or their understanding of genetics, right? There are many black nationalists out there who think that the black genes are superior, and everything, that the spirit and the soul of the black man and woman is superior, right? I don't want to say to them, no, you're wrong. I have nothing to say to them. But when they're advocating,
I hear you guys advocate for Jean-Francois Garapé's fucking arcade
there are
theories of arcade theory.
Just like,
I hear you guys talk about fucking black people and brown people and
how
they reproduce rapidly because they don't give a shit about their offspring.
The difference
and how they just let them like fucking frog spores and turtle eggs. They just let them fucking run free, and whichever one survives.
You know
don't give me this shit. I've been through your fucking entire fucking manifestos. I've heard you on your streams. You belittle and you see yourself above non-whites and non-Europeans constantly. Don't fucking come to me with this shit that I just don't think a Somali is any less than me. I just think Somali should live in Somalia and me Europeans should live in Europe.
No, I'm not even saying that.
You think you're better than them, and you just think those low IQ people should live with low IQ
I grant you a point. I grant you a point. Based on the things I value, I think that the German people are superior to many other people, right? Because otherwise, I would say, what's the point of having a German people? The difference is that I don't think just because I have this belief, I should now be able, based on that, to conquer other peoples. But Jupiter believes in this. She thinks that the British mindset should conquer the world, and the British mindset of whenever something in another country is not according to her ideology, she can say this guy is a dictator. He's not based on liberalist values, Western values. So we have the right to conquer these people and to teach them. I'm against that. So you see the difference. I'm not an imperialist, okay? Even though I think the German people, based on my values, have superiority, if you want to call it this way. I would call it another thing, right? But yes, you can say that, because otherwise, what's the reason? And it doesn't have to be on race. It could also be on ideology. Muslims clearly think that they are that Islam is superior to everything else. That is cultural or religious supremacy. Okay. But are there Muslims that think this way and are not willing to conquer other countries? Absolutely. Are there Muslims out there that, based on that supremacist religious worldview, want to conquer the whole world? Yes, absolutely. But as long as the Muslims are in power that are against Muslim imperialism, I'm totally fine with that.
So very quickly, because I'm gonna duck in a sec here. I just want to say two things here. The first here is that I noticed that in terms of the primary argumentation, your line of reasoning that justifies white nationalism, one of the factors that is not being taken into consideration in the contemporary context is the idea of white supremacy, which doesn't manifest itself predominantly within the ideology of Pan-Afrikanism. Yeah. So again, while it's being said that we shouldn't go into the historical evolution to contemporary times of the ideology, we must also factor in the idea of white supremacy, which is very much a fundamental foundation of white nationalism in today's world, contemporarily at the moment. Secondly, I'd like to just highlight this idea as defined by Mama Marimba Ani, of the rhetorical ethic here, which she defines as culturally structured European hypocrisy, whereby they outline lines of logic and standards of argumentation that are designed to preserve their power and to negate the people that are subject to their power being able to challenge their power even from a position of logic and argumentation. And that is what a discussion like this is designed to do. Yeah, it is designed to neutralize the focus on the behavior of European people. Yeah, it is designed to neutralize the capacity of those who are challenging the hegemony of white power from being able to do so from a logical foundation. So you define logic in a particular way, X out all kinds of other variables or context, and decide that this is the only way to achieve true objectivity and logic in the situation, and that becomes, the dominant argument in that regard. And I think that it would be wise, for people who are subject to white power to negate, and reject that line of reasoning. And finally, before I go, I noticed here that even though it was said,
I haven't answered my question yet.
What's it called? Even though it was said, and maybe after I finish, I'll answer it. If I'm feeling kind. If after we've spoken about it, but we actually haven't gone into what are the actual goals? What have Pan-Afrikanists done? What programs have they put in place? Because I feel like that, in terms of analyzing it from a functional perspective, that would yield some insights here in terms of the principles, the values, the intentions, and the goals of Pan-African ideology, understanding that there is variation, under the Pan-African umbrella. I am feeling kind. What's your question, Erondo?
My question was, what's the secret weapon that the Pan-Africans hold to dismantle or disempower the white hegemony?
The reality is that if it was a secret weapon, I couldn't tell you.
I was going to say that.
What's the open weapon? What's the weapon that the Pan-Africans are using right now? Because you must have a way, right? Otherwise, why should people follow you if you don't think that you have a way to dismantle white supremacy?
Super soaker.
So what are you telling your followers? Why should they follow you to dismantle white hegemony?
Wait, hold on. I just want to get in, because obviously one thing that Elron touched on was the fact that his view is that he wants Germany for Germany people, and then he doesn't want to invade or anything. At most, I think you said that you want to trade with other groups, if anything. So, Shakara, is that an issue that you have with?
No, if we, I don't think what white nationalists
Just based
say
on what,
is of consequence. If they behave in that way, if they behave in that way, and it's clear that they don't have invasionary intentions and them kind of things, then one can respect that. Until one sees evidence of that, like I keep saying, you know, when we start to see white nationalists waging campaigns against white multinational corporations, the IMF, the World Bank, and seeking to dismantle these institutions, then maybe we'll have something to talk about, right? But we don't at the moment. And even say, go on.
They've dismantled the Europe. Well, they're looking to dismantle the European Union. So I guess I'm
not sure that they are. But either way, they're doing so based upon they're not doing so out of a challenge to the intentions of European nations to control the resources of African peoples. You know what I'm saying? Or peoples around the world. It's nonsense. That the challenge in the European Union is about some of them want more sovereignty, or because they consider the European Union to be a hindrance to their own sovereignty. It has nothing to do with whether they agree with invasions or not. So I'm sorry, I can't accept that as an example. But in answer to the question, I'm going to quote from the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who says, "Because no race has the last word on culture and civilization, they do not know what we are capable of. They don't know what we are thinking. They are thinking in terms of dreadnoughts, battleships, airplanes, and submarines. You know what we are thinking about? That is our own private business." And with that, here is our Kwanzaa, African power for all African people.